I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. Come to the table, cup runneth over. Come drink your fill and be well.
Thank you for joining us today on BattleBorn Believers. Today we have my dear friend and sister in Christ, Julianne, and she's going to share something that happened. She had a UFO encounter just recently, so stay tuned. Just FYI, I have a channel with her and another sister in Christ, Helva. It's Awaken to Truth. Come join us over there as well. We have lots of fun over there. Hi, Julianne. Thank you for coming today.
Thanks, Chris, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to do an interview with you.
It's a pleasure to
Um,
have you over here.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, yeah, Monday night last week. Wow. First, I've seen UFOs around the sky. As a kid, I used to put the beach towel out back on the grass, lie under the tree, and I'd watch the UFOs dance. I didn't know they were UFOs back then because that wasn't a word. They were just things that zinged around in the sky. And I knew I was seeing them because the girl next door put her beach towel out with me one day and she actually spoke about them. And I went, "Oh, you see them too?" And then she realised that she'd actually thought out loud. And then she picked up a towel and ran home. Mm. But I thought, oh, it's not just me. And, but I've seen them. I know they exist. Never doubted it. Um, I believe in the breeding program that they're doing as well. I have absolutely no doubt of any survivors' stories. I have never, until Monday night, experienced a UFO up close and personal, though. My husband and I were just driving home after I'd been to an appointment, and where we live in the country, there are no street lights out the back, nothing. There's lights on way, way, way away, acres away, and they're house lights. So there's no direct lighting there. The, the sky was stormy, and I was actually, when I came out of my appointment, I realised it was spitting lightly with rain. And I thought, oh no, we've got to get from the carport to the house and I'm going to be drenched by the time I get in. Um, anyway, as we turned into the driveway, going to the carport, which is open on one side,
Mhm.
I saw this light coming towards me. It was a dome shape, the light. And the first thing, because of the speed it was coming at me at, I just had a panic. By the time I got the breath, we were already in the carport and stopped. And Paul said to me, "What's wrong?" But I could not turn away from this thing. I honestly thought it was a plane about to crash into my house.
Oh,
That's
wow.
how fast and how close it was coming. And then as I said to him, "There's a plane going to crash. Look, look, look." And I'm pointing out the windscreen. I had one leg out of the car, by the way, one leg. And I'm pointing at the windscreen. Look, look. And he looked. And he goes, "I can't see anything." And I said, "How can you miss that?" But this man wouldn't know a devil if he tripped over one. And, but anyway, how can you not see that? It was so bright. And it happened really quickly, but it was so intense for me anyway. And I couldn't move my gaze. I was just, I didn't know what was going on,
May I ask you
really.
something? Do you feel like you
Yeah,
were frozen in place? Do you feel like you didn't have control over it? Or just fear?
never actually thought of that. Now you're sending me off into thinky time. Um, I had to, I had to mentally make sure I was breathing.
Wow.
So yeah, yeah, I just couldn't, I couldn't move my eyes off it. I couldn't get out of the car. I had my leg out of the car, but it was actually a foot off the ground.
Oh my.
So for the whole time,
Oh
my leg
my.
was sticking up. That's how frozen I was. And I just couldn't think of anything apart from this is going to crash into my house. And then I realised planes don't look like that. Planes do not have a dome shape,
Exactly.
nor do they have, it had the lights were, it didn't meet in the middle at the bottom. And the lights were bright blue, lighter blue, and then white. But it was only thin around the outside, and it was iridescent. It didn't look like they were headlights or anything. And that's what made me realise, hang on, that's not a plane. Planes have blinky lights. Well, they do over here anyway, and headlights. And we're not near an airport. That's why I thought we were going, it was something going to crash.
Wow.
And as soon as I realised what it was, that this is a UFO, and I think I screamed UFO. And Paul had come back to the car. He was at the back door waiting for me, yelling at me, actually. I could hear him in the background. He'd come back to the car to see if there was something wrong with me because my leg was sticking out up. And he thought, ah. And he came in, he's going, are you all right? Are you all right? And I couldn't answer him. I couldn't answer him. And I couldn't break the spell, I guess. I don't know what it is. Break the trance. Every time I say that, it sounds pretty new agey, but I can't think of another word. And I saw it was coming towards me, and I had my finger up pointing out the window, the windscreen of the car. And it got to my backyard, a tree just behind, just on the other side of my backyard. You'll see in the photos, it's not very wide, but our backyard is long. And oh, Chris, oh, goodness. It just stopped behind the tree, but I could still see it. The tree is about 12, 13 foot high plus.
Wow.
And it just dropped like a stone, just plunk
Wow.
onto the ground. And it was probably 3 meters, which is what, 6 feet? No, 9 feet.
That is about right. Yeah, that's typical.
Past my fence, my back fence. And it, like I said, dropped behind this tree. But
Oh,
the
so
thing is,
I'm sorry. So it was 3 meters, which is about 6 feet past the tree. How big?
no, from the backyard, from my back fence.
Okay, so how big do you think that the UFO
The
was?
object was.
Mhm.
It wasn't as big as a Boeing, of course, because that would have taken up a whole big thing, but it was a small passenger aircraft, easily.
Okay.
Probably an 8-seater, if that, much bigger than a white knuckle tours, the 2-seater ones. But it was that, and there was no noise whatsoever.
Okay.
And I could see it glowing. The lights went out, and it just started radiating a light that was silver. And
Okay.
honestly, what it reminded me of was there was a show when I was a kid, and it's been on, repeats. The original Jupiter 2 out of the Lost in Space series. That's what it looked like, the shape. Because I do remember thinking when it hit the ground, they finally found their way home, because that series is where they get, an explosion happens while they're launching off into space. And
So
it's the Robinson family. And anyway, I never saw a window or a porthole, but maybe they hadn't pulled the blinds up yet. I don't know what they used. And it was just glowing, and then it just went funk and cloaked. And how I knew it had cloaked is that I could see the outline, a shimmer, a glimmer, whatever you want to call it, of the outline. And it was just what I was seeing through it was, it wasn't lining up with what was next to it, just by a smidge, but I could see it was there. And I see in the spirit, I know which is what, I can tell whether I'm seeing something in the natural or something in the spiritual realm. This was in the natural. It was really in the natural. And as soon as it cloaked, 1, 2, 3, 3 heartbeats, and I was back and I could move. And Paul was in the car yelling in my ear, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I said to him, "Yeah," and now I'm deaf. And he goes, "What were you looking at?" I said, "The spaceship." "There's no spaceship there." And I said, "Well, you don't see things anyway in the best of times." And I seriously think I might not get in the car with him ever again. But anyway, he couldn't see it. And then I realised, because I was out of the car by this time, I realised that my dogs weren't at the back fence. And they always, whenever anyone pulls into the drive, they're always treats, 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 barking their heads off. There were no dogs. And I went down the steps from the carport, going down past the clothesline, so I could go to the dog pen or the backyard fence and look across the backyard to where it was. And I thought, I'm going to go and get a torch or a flashlight, in your terms, and I'm going to get a few half bricks and I'm going to throw them at it and see what happens. I wanted to see if they'd bounce or just get sucked in or what, because it was still there. I never saw anyone come out of it. I never saw, once it cloaked, I never saw anything else of that ship. And what happened was I actually took 2 steps down the path, the back path, and I wasn't watching where I was putting my feet, of course, and our grass is a good 4 inches below the concrete, and I jolted my leg, which, having just had surgery on it, it really hurt. And I let out a yell, and then Paul goes, "Get inside, you silly woman. We've got to have dinner, we've got to do this, we've got to do that." And so I went up the back stairs. We've got 2 back steps to the back door. And he put his hand out to help me up the stairs. And I grabbed his hand because I do need help to get up. And the minute I put 1 foot over the threshold of my door, never even thought about the UFO again. Never even, I would have texted you immediately. I actually was thinking that I'm going to text Chris.
I just said that to Michael today. When I was telling him I was doing this interview with you, and I was like, if she saw a UFO, within seconds she would be calling me. She had brain fog. She had brain fog. They control you for about 24 hours. It's this thing that comes over you. I think it's something that they set in your brain in some way. That way there's no incident that, happens with them. Like, you're not going to report it for a minute, and everybody's just going to discredit you. That way, if they're highly active at that period of time, there's going to be no issues. And they do it in a mass crowd kind of way, like within a radius.
I think they got called before I even pointed to it, because he couldn't see it and he never mentioned it again.
Yeah.
Even when I went out, when it was 25 hours after I'd seen it, that suddenly I realised the spaceship. Wow. And it was only because I was watching a video of L.A. Mazzulli's of Roswell, and it had the spacecraft in it. That's what triggered me. It twigged it, and I went, crikey, which is an Australian swear word, a good one though. And I just thought, the spaceship. And I didn't go out and look at where it was during the day. I didn't see anything. I didn't do anything because I didn't even remember it. I remembered I'd had my eyelashes done. I remembered to, put the money back into my wallet so I wasn't down when I went out next. But I never, ever, ever thought of it until it was like someone had hit me.
Like you were on autopilot.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Autopilot.
Yeah. And it was just so, I've never in my life experienced anything like that. Then I had a panic thinking, oh my goodness, I better not have been abducted. I don't think I was. I really don't. It just, my spirit doesn't tell me that I was.
I doubt it.
And
They do it
I
on
searched really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, I've got positive blood grouping. They like negatives, I've heard.
They do. I'm a negative. As anybody who watches our both of our channels, yeah, I'm an abductee. And I can totally relate to what she's talking about, that 24-hour fog thing. It is real. And then you're like kicking yourself when it does somehow your
I lost hours. I lost hours.
Yeah, it's like you're on
Wow.
autopilot. Yeah.
Because it was 9 p.m. on the Tuesday night when I realised that I'd seen a UFO. And I shone the torch out, and of course I couldn't see anything because it wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
But I went out as soon as I realised. I didn't even text you or call you or anything. I went straight out to Paul, who was playing the computer, and I said to him, "Do you remember I saw a UFO last night?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Oh, you've got it too. You've got brain fog." He goes, "I've got what?" And I said, "Brain fog. It's common amongst people with Y chromosomes." Because I like ragging him about that.
That's
And
good.
yes, you can use it, anyone who likes that. I call it the Y chromosome effect, and only boys do it because they're the only ones with Y chromosome. But anyway, I was recounting what had happened with Paul. He said, "No, you were just being stupid in the car." And I said, "Being stupid how?" Because when I got the memory back, I got all of it back. So I knew that my leg was still outside the car, and my thigh muscles kept cramping because of the odd angle I had it on. And I was talking to him about what happened. "Do you remember me pointing at it through the windscreen?" He said, "I never saw anything." I said, "Yeah, I know. That's what you said then." He said, "Well, I didn't know why you're in the car. I was worried you'd had a stroke or a heart attack." Because, yeah, I always do that. Never. And he said, "You just wouldn't come inside." And I said, "Because I was looking at the UFO through the windscreen. That's why." And I said, "It landed on the other side of the tree." He said, "Yes, I heard you saying something about that." And I could see the dawning happening on him in his face. And he was actually turned away from me, probably so he didn't have to listen to me. I could pretend not to. And he actually spun the chair back and looked at me. And he said, "Oh, there was nothing. I never saw anything." I said, "I know, but it was in the natural. I saw it, not in the supernatural." And he said, "Well, is it still there now?" I said, "No, I can't feel it." Yeah, and as I say that, I realised there was a connection there somehow. And I rebuke that now in the name of Jesus Christ. Get off me, get out of my mind, out of every bit of me. You cannot have me. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
And that's when I first saw it, I never for 1 second thought of using the name of Yeshua. I didn't rebuke it. He never even crossed my mind, ever. And I'm embarrassed by that. I'm really embarrassed. And I did think, I've heard stories of people rebuking, when they're being levitated, that's the right word?
Yes.
And they've called out Jesus or Yeshua, and instantly it's broken.
You have to be conscious enough for it to happen. You have to be, but they usually control your mind. But you
I
sometimes
didn't have that in me.
Yeah, so now you know what I'm talking about. Every time I'm like, well, you have to be able to snap out of their control. But when you're in it, you don't think. But actually I'd like to share something that briefly. It's actually on my channel, and I'll probably do a full interview on this eventually, but just to confirm what she's talking about, one time I was abducted off of a bridge. I was in Washington, and I was heading back to Oregon, just to make the story short. So I'm coming up to the bridge. It's called the Bridge of the Gods. It's,
No, great.
yeah, I know. And
Every
it's
town
going
should have
over the
one.
body of water over Columbus. I know, I know, I know.
Wonderful.
But yeah, the Bridge of the Gods. And so I'm coming up, and the bridge is to the right, and all of a sudden my brain is right where you're talking about, and I'm thinking, oh, there's something on
La la
the
la.
bridge, right? La 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 la. Like, okay, so I would normally be freaking out, turning around, going the other way. That would be more normal instinct, but I'm not. And I'm driving, and and I see something. It's like this big wall. It's like a camouflage. It's either making me see that, or
Mm.
it's creating this camouflage. I know what it is. I'm like, that's a UFO through there. I'm sure of that. La 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 la.
La la la.
So I keep going, and I'm going on the bridge. And then I slow down to about 10 miles per hour once I get to where that wall was. And I said, everything's going to be okay. And these are not my thoughts. Those thoughts were being put in my head, but I'm like, but I think I better pray before I go in it. I started to pray, and lights out, done. And I ended up having a battle. Well, Jesus had a battle. They think they at the time they still thought they had rights over me. But anyways, I was abducted. When I was
Oh,
finally
wow.
released, I'm down the road about an hour out, 45 minutes to an hour, right, like probably 20 minutes from Portland, Oregon. So, but I lost so much time, like 4 hours, like it was around midnight, and it's now 4 in the morning, and 4:30 in the morning, about a half hour to 40 minutes from home. And then it happens again right before I get to the exit. This is what I told you about the battle that was going on.
Mm, mm.
And it was like there was 3 abductions. This was like the second to last, thing that happened. But anyways, same thing, brain fog for at least 24 hours, at least 24 hours. I'm like, yeah, I was abducted, but I never thought about it again. I knew because this has happened to me so many times, but I didn't think about it. By the time I snapped out of their little brain fog thing, I was so ticked. I was just livid. But anyways, uh,
Well, with me, anyone that has watched any of the videos that we've done in my interviews with various people, um, I don't keep quiet about anything, man.
at all.
Um,
She's not,
at all.
she's the noisy one. Yeah.
And honestly, how strange is that I didn't?
Not a word.
We would have been recording this Monday night after I'd thrown bricks at the thing.
Absolutely.
But what I did notice as I was walking to the back fence, there were 2 horses in the back paddock because it's an agistment, and neither of them moved. Neither of them. I could see the silhouettes of their ears, I could see their coats, I could see their tails. They were stock still. My dogs never came to the fence to go, hey, Mum, where's my treat? Ever. No, no barking, nothing. And I had a fit when I came back thinking, are the dogs okay? Because I don't remember seeing them on the Tuesday.
Mhm.
I just don't. I think I did Bible study. I can't really remember what I did last Tuesday. I just don't know. So I was probably walking around like a zombie. And I just didn't even think of it. And that in itself just proves to me that this is right, because that's such abnormal behaviour even for me. My ex-husband said to me when we were scuba diving one time, and I screamed, and he said I was the first person he'd heard talk underwater. And I said, well, you haven't been with me too long, have you? I'll talk anywhere. And but yeah, I just didn't say anything to anyone about it. And yeah, everyone that I've spoken to since that actually knows me, yeah, oh wow, that's really, really weird. I shot an email after I spoke with you. I shot an email off to LA, and LA, Missouri, that is, and told him what happened. And he said, can you get into the back paddock? Can you get in there? Because there might be evidence. And I mean, it was by that time, it was 10 o'clock at night. or close to it, and there was no way I was going in there. I mean, it's snake breeding season over here, and we've got 8 of the 10 deadliest snakes in the world living practically in my back paddock. So, yeah, I'm not going in there for anyone. And with all the rain we've had, because the weather is absolutely mental at the moment, it just rained, mega hot, mega cold, mega hot rain. And on the odd occasion, there's the thunderstorm thrown in there just because we haven't got enough rain. And the grass is just growing, just poof, like someone's put liquid fertilizer all over it. And my dogs play apex predator in the grass. When we go out, they'll just launch at you from somewhere. And I have to keep reminding them they are not lions or tigers or anything else. But I looked, I couldn't see it from the angle of the house. I couldn't actually get downstairs and into the grass because it was raining. And I went to all the windows because I've got a dog pen in the backyard and I've got to look over it, as you'll see in the photos. And I couldn't see the area. The grass was too low. And I thought, oh, I'll wait till my daughter comes up and I'll get her to go in there. And I tried bribing people that live in the house next to us and because we've got stables next door. And I tried, I'll give you $20 to go in there and have a look. You have to go as far as I can tell you where to go because we can't get into that paddock from our backyard. We have to go round down, it's a long way around. And and people saying to me, oh, you do know that we're in Australia and we have snakes, don't you? And it's breeding season. And I'll yell really loudly and stomp while you go looking in the grass. And no, I'm not going in there. Have you seen how big those rats are? And the snakes, by the way, did we mention snakes? And because we're not allowed to have a shotgun or a rifle, we're not allowed to kill snakes. They're protected creatures over here. And mind you, I don't think anything should be protected if it's having a loaded weapon all the time and you don't know whether it's going to use it or not. And so it was safe for me going in. So I tried to get a vantage point so I could look down on the area because our house, we're built on like a side of an embankment. So parts of our house are higher than the other bits. And I went out to the rumpus room we've got out the back. But the angle of the rumpus to look over, that was the highest window. To look into where the grass was, I couldn't see it properly. And so I went to the kitchen window and I looked out and I didn't see much there. Then I had another look because I couldn't get anyone to go in the back paddock for me, up the price to $50 just to walk in and take photos and have a bit of a look around. But we had really, really bad weather and the grass just grew 1.5 feet overnight. So I was up at the kitchen, I was making myself a cuppa and I looked out the kitchen window and I just look now. Every time I go past it, I have to look at where it landed. And I could see in the grass pattern that there were clumps growing oddly, but it was in a circular pattern and right in the centre was a spiral going out. And I thought that the rest of the paddock is not like that. You can pick it out, can't you?
Yes, I can see it.
Well, I got Paul to come over to the window because I could see the indentation and the difference. And I said, can you see that now? Look at the different clumps of grass, look at the colour of it, and look at the spiral pattern and the swirl in the middle, the circle and the swirl. And he still can't see it. I think he was just being cranky. I've never seen that formation in the grass before. And the grass has been this high before. That is totally irregular. You can look at the rest of the grass in the paddock. There's the odd clump that's a bit too big and some weeds right down near the creek, but that's the only place in 4 acres that has that circular pattern with the spiral.
The reason why I ask you about if you thought that maybe it had come
the spiral,
because of the spiral. Because you know how I feel about spirals, and anytime I hear it, see it.
So does everyone. It's popular in our Indigenous cultures, tales and stories.
It is in ours too, but most people that are not Indigenous don't know about it. So
okay.
I'm not kidding. unless you're indigenous.
Mm.
Most people here do not know anything about that. Unless they watch L.A. Marzulli, of course.
And The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch.
But the reason why I ask is because Julianne, guys, has seen UFOs before. She's seen the portals. I've seen it outside of my house recently, which I'm also going to show some pictures here, guys. I've had some weird stuff going on in the skies lately. But she's seen them in her skies numerous times where she's seen them come in, come out. She's rebuked them.
Portal was opening. It was a slit, and it was opening like an eye. And a friend had come up and for prayer, and I was walking her out to the car, and it just gone dusk. And she just goes, "Is that a portal?" And I said, "Oh, good, you can see it too. I'm not the only one." And she goes, "Why is it there?" I said, "Because they hide in stars." And anyway, if you Google CERN, CERN, opening portal over Geneva, you will see it happen. You will see a portal, and that opening is exactly what I see when I see portals.
This here, I don't know what to think about this. This video here is allegedly because of CERN opening up a portal. Now, the thing is, I do know that the capability that CERN has does do exactly this type of event here. But I'm going to just play this, let you guys look at this and see what you think. This was CERN being powered up and a vortex being opened as a result. I don't know how long this video would stay out there public if it really is authentic, but this is over Geneva, Switzerland. You can only imagine. You go to playing.
Seen that? You seen that come out of the clouds? Man, what was that? Hold on, Jack. I gotta rewind.
That is wild.
It was the streak seen across the sky, now seen around the world. This, as our 8 News Now investigators confirm, Metro actually set up cameras at this home where a family called 911 claiming to see aliens in their backyard. And tonight, a fierce debate is underway about the legitimacy of an alleged UFO crash. Good evening, I'm Janice Valdez.
And I'm Brian Loftus. Our 8 News Now investigators reporting about terrified members of a local family who told police they had aliens in their backyard.
The fireball captured on a police body cam on the night of April 30th was real. The American Meteor Society says witnesses reported seeing it all across the West, from northeastern Utah to Southern California. Another Las Vegas resident sent us a video of the same object recorded on her home cameras. Police videos obtained by 8 News Now indicate Metro officers were among the witnesses.
One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious.
A frightened family called 911 and told police they had 10-foot-tall alien beings in their backyard. Officers responded to the home minutes later, interviewed the witnesses, canvassed the area, and cautiously inspected the backyard to look for intruders. One thing noticed by the officers was a circle in the soil. In conversations with us and in a podcast interview, Angel, the main witness, suggested the circle might have been created when an unknown object landed in the yard. The family told us by phone they had seen suspicious vehicles with men in black types checking out their home. The family declined to be interviewed by us, but members have spoken elsewhere and stick to their claims of seeing aliens in the backyard. Dozens of people on social media have analyzed and dissected the images with various claims of aliens spotted in the shadows. Police do not believe this was a hoax call, which could be a crime if done intentionally.
All right. So, what do you make of this whistleblower, David Grush?
He first reached out to me about a year ago. We've been in contact ever since. He's the real deal. I mean, he had a distinguished career in the Air Force. Then he went to work for a 3-letter agency you probably haven't heard of, the NGA, which basically tracks everything in space, in the air, in the ocean, under the ocean, on land. They keep tracks of everything. He has the highest security clearances in our government, and in that capacity, he interacted with something like 2,000 SAP, special access programs, and he learned along the way that we're reverse engineering crash flying saucers, and he's been telling that to Congress under oath behind closed doors. And I think they'll probably bring him back. So it's a pretty intriguing story.
A lot like what we've been hearing
Yes.
about out in the Nevada desert for a long time.
Right.
Of all the stories you've done over decades and decades, this one has really gone worldwide.
The
hasn't
backyard
it?
alien?
Yes.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy how much email we get, you know. We're not done with it. We'll see
Just
where it
going to
goes.
say, this is not the last of that
Yeah.
story.
My name is Timothy Alberino, and this is the after-action report and analysis of my expedition into the Amazon jungle of Peru, where I investigated the alleged alien attacks and face peeler phenomenon of recent internet fame. Let's begin with a brief review. Some months ago, near the end of July, compelling videos began to surface on social media featuring an alleged alien attack in a remote jungle village called San Antonio de Pintuyacu, which is inhabited by the indigenous Iquitu people and located deep in the Alto Nanay region of the Peruvian Amazon, northwest of Iquitos. The video depicted an alarming scene in which the men of the village were in a state of panic, discharging their firearms into the jungle in the dark of night. Subsequent interviews with the Apu, or chief of the village, revealed that mysterious assailants were making incursions into the village and had attempted to abduct a 15-year-old girl. The girl, whose name is Talia, was able to scream during the altercation with her assailants and was fortunately rescued by her brother and her neighbors, who came running to investigate the commotion. Talia sustained a laceration in her neck and was in a state of chemically induced disorientation for some time after the incident. According to the Apu, whose name is Jairo Reategui, the assailants were arrayed in peculiar body armor with elongated helmets reminiscent of the Green Goblin from the Spider-Man movie, and were able to float through the jungle and lift off into the air. They seemed to be impervious to gunfire as they were shot at point-blank range to no effect and could seemingly disappear into the night. In the video, the Apu made the extraordinary claim that the assailants were not human beings, but extraterrestrials, evidenced by their incredible technological capabilities, which seemed to defy a conventional explanation. The assailants were also described as pelacaras, which translates into English to face peelers. The legend of the pelacaras is well known in the Peruvian Amazon. I myself had heard of it some 20 years ago when I lived among the native people in a region of the jungle not far from Alto Nanay. According to the legend, strange beings would, from time to time, appear in the remote villages to waylay and abduct individuals who happened to be found alone at night. The corpses of these unfortunate victims would later be discovered with their faces partially or completely removed, exposing the bleached skeletal bone beneath. While many Peruvians associate the pelacaras with gringos, there is no consensus among the indigenous communities in regard to their origin or identity. Some believe that they represent an international group of organ harvesters funded, perhaps, by cartels, while others maintain that they are non-human beings and even extraterrestrials. So these individuals have her in this manner, but they're hovering, mind you. They're hovering on these platforms, and they proceed to lift her up. Now, I don't recall, Doug, if she was telling us something about how she was speaking very, very softly. She was very nervous. She was telling us something about how they attempted to lift her off the ground, but couldn't. Somewhere in the course of this encounter, they were attempting to lift her off the ground, and for some reason, they were having a hard time. So they took her behind this hut that's there on the property. And then they proceeded to take out a powder. The Peruvian put some powder in his hand, and then he put some cream. He had this little bottle with cream in it, and he mixed the powder and the cream together. Then he took a nasal syringe, he sucked up the substance and shot it up her nose. Then they took out a larger tube, almost like, it sounded like, and I asked her, like, sort of like a large toothpaste packet, And they put the cream on their hands. And this was the guy that had her from behind. So recall, the gringo has her from behind. He's covering her mouth. The Peruvian has her by the feet. And the gringo proceeds to smear this cream all over her face. And she said that her face instantly went numb when the cream was applied, and it began to swell. And she even tells us that at that point she heard the Peruvian guy say, be careful, don't apply too much. You're going to ruin the flesh. And then she later explained that what she heard them saying was something about how if they apply too much, the flesh is going to stick to the skin when they take it off. Something along those lines. It wasn't exactly clear, but something like that. And then, and I may be skipping some minor details, and then they took out one of them took out a small device that you and I think is a laser scalpel, and they began to make an incision in her neck. In other words, they were very likely going to peel her face off, just like the legends say. At this moment, Talia began to struggle. She began to lift up the mask, the helmet of the guy behind her, the gringo holding her from behind. And as she was doing this, somebody, I think it was him, or if not the Peruvian guy who was holding her legs, one of them slapped her in the face. And when they did this, they dropped her. And this gave her a moment in which her mouth was no longer being covered, and she was able to scream. So she hits the ground, she screams. Her brother and her family members are on the other side of the house on the porch, sitting there outside. They have their flashlights on them. Talia's brother gets on the scene with his flashlight. The neighbors are up higher on the hill. They come down with their flashlights, and they all see the same thing. What they see are two individuals, these two individuals we just described, dressed in black, head to foot, very tall, hovering on these platforms, on these circular platforms. And Talia is lying there on the ground, bloodied up from the incision in her neck. Her face is swollen. And Talia says that at this moment, she heard the Peruvian face peeler say to the gringo, let's go, let's get out of here. And the gringo replied, no, we can't just leave her here. And according to Talia, he proceeded to grab her by the hair and try to drag her and perhaps lift her off the ground on his platform. The neighbors see this. They have their flashlights. They start to yell. And eventually the gringo drops her. And these guys maneuver themselves to where there's an opening in the trees. And they lift off the ground at a high rate of speed and disappear into the sky. What do you think about this? We want to try and go and hunt this down, right? This video. The location where this was filmed. So they stood there and they watched the video. You played it back to them on your laptop. And they immediately said, there's something there. There's something there.
We didn't point to them where it was.
Nope. And they even pointed out the eyes. Looks like there's two black eyes with the flashlight shining off of them. And then I said, what do you think about this picture? And we flipped on your laptop to a picture that I had brought with me of a insectoline, the typical rendition of an insectoline according to the abduction accounts, right? And they were shocked. They said immediately, all of them, everyone standing around said, that's it. That's what we're seeing. And then they said, bring the video back up. And then we put them side by side, the insectoline and whatever it is in the video. And we played it back, and they're just all of them. There's probably 5 guys standing behind us, our Navy guys and the villagers, and they're going, that's it. That's the same thing. That's what's there. This insectoline picture, that's it. That's what we're looking at. Look at it. It's moving its head. You can see the light on its eyes. And we told them, we don't know what this is, but maybe it's this. There's a possibility. We don't know. And up until this point, our security detail, these Navy commandos, were cool as a cucumber, right? They were hearing all of the accounts, all of the testimony. They were with us the whole time. We would discuss it with them later on. They heard everything that was said in the village. the Pelicadas. They were there when we interviewed Talia. None of that fazed these guys. These guys are very professional. None of that fazed them. But after they saw that video, I remember Henry, who's a jungle survival instructor. Henry put his hand over his mouth like this. And he's just looking, and he goes like this. He said, "Now I'm a little nervous."
It might be War of the Worlds happening right now on this third rock from the sun. The Messenger reports that on New Year's Day, numerous police officers swiftly responded to a Miami mall as a brawl ensued among a group of teens wielding sticks, launching fireworks, and causing chaos for local businesses. However, some observant social media users say that the substantial police mobilization, which even included officers armed with high-powered rifles, was unrelated to the teenage disturbance. Instead, they assert that the situation involved extraterrestrial phenomena.
The basis for this claim is an aerial image that you see that purportedly depicts a slender gray entity ranging from 7 to 10 feet in height, lurking near a promenade close to a row of police cruisers. Ex-user Gold Lion posted this video, which we have a screenshot of up on the screen now, of a massive police response in Miami, which conservative commentator ex-user DC Drano responded. So are we not going to be told the truth about why Miami had possibly the biggest police response I've ever seen in my life? They're saying it was for teenagers fighting? What really happened? And another conservative commentator, Matt Walsh, wrote, "It's frankly absurd to suggest that this incident was anything but an alien invasion." Enthusiastic amateur investigators noted that the slender gray entity closely resembled a similar being reportedly observed by a family in Nevada last May. According to the family's account, they witnessed a flash of light in the sky before encountering two beings, each standing up to 10 feet tall.
Additionally, some users drew attention to reports of 7-foot-tall aliens causing disturbances among local villagers in Peru earlier this year.
That big, I'm like half the size of that thing. That's terrifying. But it could explain a little bit why they don't want to hang out with us, because they are way bigger than us, and that is scary. And teenagers breaking out in a fight could have been started by them seeing the alien, pushing into each other, trying to run away from it, and then they just start fighting each other. I don't know. Maybe the alien did cause the teenager fight, and the teenager fight's why they responded, and then there was just a big alien there. It's possible.
Yeah, two totally unrelated events, possibly. I did see the video of the teenage fight. It looks bad, but not for the number of police cars that we saw in that aerial footage from Miami. So I will admit that part is a little weird. I did see a video from an individual who claimed to be in the mall when this incident happened. He said that they heard fireworks followed by gunshots and a stampede of people running away from the area. Him and whoever he was with decided to also leave the mall. And it was then that he claims he saw these tall, shadowy figures. But again, in an age where everybody is constantly recording everything, everybody whips their cell phones out at the first sight of some kind of conflict, whether verbal or physical. It just seems a little weird that nobody caught a better image of these things on their camera. Some people are actually claiming that these are the Nephilim described in the book of Enoch, which I've talked about on this show before and got a lot of heat for.
Well, this was just like it happened a week ago. And I'm still, every time I look out the back door, I've got to look at where it was, because the grass has got higher and higher, and it's become, to me, it's become more obvious now, the circle and the spiral bits, and the different coloured grass, and the different kind of grass in the circular pattern. LA was a bit disappointed when I said to him, I can't get into the paddock, I can't get anywhere near it, and I can't bribe anyone to do it for me. And so, but I have organised, my daughter-in-law is going to come up on Friday, and she's quite happy to go in there and have a look. And I'm quite happy to let her do that.
You know why? Because there might actually be physical evidence besides the visual. He's right about that.
Well, the grass at the moment would come up, I'm 5'3", it would come up to my thighs.
Okay.
To my hips, maybe even in places.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's a horse paddock, so it's not regular. There's no way I could walk in it with my back and my knee. But anyway, it was freaky. It was really freaky. So, of course, I'm telling anyone and everyone that I can, waving the flag about this. I've never seen, we've been here in this property for 2 years. I have never seen anything like that before, anything. And I've seen some weird stuff, really weird stuff. Well, weird to most people. But I've never seen anything like that in the whole 60 years.
And that close to
8
you,
years
right?
I can remember. And that close, I honestly thought it was going to come into the house. Wow. And I was concerned about the dogs. And then I didn't realise until after I remembered seeing it, after the thing snapped off, that, oh, my son was in the house. I never thought about him. I just thought about getting the dogs out.
That's the weird thing.
I never thought about him. Screw him. Yep.
It's like, oh, well. You know,
Yep,
it's
yep, bad luck. Sucks to be you.
Yeah, it sucks to be you, right? You know what's funny is, in my experience, oh, it's telling me, hold on. In my experience, you just don't think right. It's like you're on autopilot. Things that would occur to you don't occur to you. Like when I was being abducted, abducted off the bridge, it didn't occur to me that my son is in the back seat and he's getting abducted too. No normal thoughts. It's like you just keep moving
You're
along.
zombified.
Yeah,
Zombified.
yeah, total.
And whilst I've never doubted yours and other survivors or abductees, whatever you want to call yourselves, I've often said to you, I believe you, but I can't empathise or anything because I don't know what it's like. Well, now I do. A bit. And that was it probably would have gone, if I was lucky, 4 minutes at the most that I saw this thing. Paul said it was a lot longer, that I was stuffing around in the car.
You had missing time, though, which is weird. Doesn't mean you were abducted, and that often happens with the brain fog, but you can relate now, because when you came back from this and you snapped to, all those racing thoughts that go through your mind. I wonder if I was abducted. If they did, what did they do to me? So now you can relate. Now you know what it's like to be shut off and then shut back on all of a sudden.
And I'm a control freak.
Me too.
Absolutely crazy control freak.
With good
reason. I was out of control.
Yeah.
I was not in charge. And that's sick. Even as I'm saying it, I can feel my heart rate going up. My blood pressure is probably going to, if I go red in the face, it'll be because I'm pounding from that. But yeah, I could imagine what you'd gone through, but having experienced it, I never imagined it. I didn't even come close. I don't want anyone else to experience it, but I think they're just going to be coming in and doing it over and over again.
These sightings are happening more and more. They're increasing. Our government above our government, okay, is doing this slow, soft rollout of their narration, their truth about what's coming to pass. I do believe that there's going to be the big reveal, but it's going to be based on probably the Antichrist or leading to that in one way or another. But we're seeing more and more sightings. I have 3 things above my head at all times, different positions. Always. It doesn't matter where I move to, there they are. And they'll always.
I saw 2 moons the other night.
That's interesting.
1 moon on one side of the house and one on the other side. So there's no way it could have been a reflection or refraction of light. There were 2 moons. And again, I said to Paul, there are 2 moons. And he said, don't be stupid. I said, I'm not. And I said, look, there's the one out the back. Look up and see it. And he goes, yes, that's the moon. And they were both full. They were both full. And I dragged him out to the front of the house, which was totally on the other side of the house, obviously, because one's a back, one's a front. And I took him out the front and I said, and there's the moon. He said, it's the same moon. I said, is it? Walk out the front and you look over the roof of the house. You tell me if you can see 2 moons. And he did walk. He actually did it.
Yeah. If you go look on the FAA weather cam, you can actually find where it shows two suns. There's actually a person who does videos on them like constantly. I don't know if she's still around, but two suns. One's an artificial sun and one's the real sun. And there's something that keeps coming through that's so large, and it might be UFOs, it might be meteor type things. I'm not sure. I don't know, but you can see the surface of it. When it's the fake sun, when you're looking at it, because if you look closely, you'll see a little black hole, right? Like it's a little black thing right in the middle. And when, you know how when the sun goes behind a pole, like when you're looking at it, there's a pole, it still shines around it. And then in the picture or video, it will make it to where you can't see the pole, at least in the spot where it's doing it. Well, it doesn't do that with the fake sun. With the fake sun disappears. So all this light is
I have seen that.
one spot. We have run out of time. Well, thank you, Julianne, for coming on. And I can't wait till the next time you come on and talk. We always have fun stuff to talk about. And guys, don't forget to go over to our other channel, Awaken to Truth. We will see you next time. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. Come to the table, cup runneth over. Come drink your fill.